Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let's get ready to
She had a ball, and she was bulldozing them all by herself. To my future husband, if you're listening to this, I might be saying shit that you weren't expecting.
Hello. I'm Shushana.
I'm Tristan.
Are you ready to mumble?
Absolutely.
Great. So do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Like Shoshana, I also grew up in New York. When I met her, we had a lot, I feel like there's always that instant connection, a lot of sharing, a lot of probably mutual people that we know, like what I've sent you the other day. I'm technically an immigrant, but like I don't look like it and I don't sound like it. But my parents moved here from Europe, and my dad came here for he worked at an agency, he did film direction. He's a very creative guy, had to be the creative guy in the household, artist. And he kind of, non-intentionally, because he did not want me to pursue that career, got me into it by showing me films and stuff. And I studied history and art, and I kind of was like, let's put that together. And I thought storytelling kind of was the natural path for that. And I kind of fell into, I want to make content, but not on my own budget. So I started working for agencies and making content on behalf of brands.
Yeah.
And it felt kind of a non-consequential, fun way to tell stories without feeling like I'm pouring my soul out to people, not just yet. Then I landed this job where Shoshana is my colleague.
I'm your boss.
I thought we weren't getting too specific. But
Yeah. So Tristan is, well, right now you're working as an associate producer, and I work as a senior producer. You are about to pour out your soul on this podcast.
Yeah, it might get a little rough.
But yeah, I mean, I wanted us to sort of talk about how we've gotten to this agency world, because I think in my circle of friends, at least definitely when I used to work at my former place, there was a lot of people who were traditional journalists who sort of jumped ship and came over to the sort of corporate marketing production side for the money. And there was a lot of you're selling your soul, and you're not, you've lost the principles of journalism, and you're not being ethical anymore. And it's well, a bitch needs to eat.
Yeah, you need to pay rent. It's New York. I'm sorry, but I feel like being a journalist is you succeeded when you were assassinated for some political reason, you leaked secrets or something. Yeah. And sorry if that was a bit coming in hot, but I feel that I love like I said, studied history, and I thought journalism would be a great route because it's documentary storytelling. You're bridging cultures but with world news and stories, and you're kind of highlighting things that aren't often spoken about. That always feels good to read a expose from New York Times or something, and you're fascinated or blown away, right? That was kind of the dream, to open up those perspectives. But I thought maybe doing that in a branded kind of content way was kind of a easy out in terms of being able to eat and pay rent at the end of the day. Also, just the climbing through that just sounded kind of a lot, to be honest. My girlfriend works in journalism, and she kind of bowed out gracefully to just manage subscriptions, and she still gets to be in that world and work without having to be a journalist, and she makes a lot of money, so it's chill.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks that something as integral to sort of the fabric of society like journalism makes no money. And it just sort of, which, I mean, kind of, I don't know if this is just my twisted mind. I feel like it's sort of the powers that be being we don't want you to be publishing shit and trying to squash.
Like I said, you publish something a little too good, and we know how that ends. But I will say, I wouldn't even say journalism. I would say production. Look, have been in it probably on and off, pandemic exclude 4 or 5 years, and I feel like I've still so much to learn. It's such a trained job for the most part. I feel very I have a big inferiority. Sorry, when I meet a film school person right out of school, who's
Yeah.
just like leagues ahead of me already on the technical side and a lot
Yeah.
of know-how side, directed their own things because it's part of their final thesis or just projects. And it takes a lot of skill and time to learn these things, and
Absolutely.
the confidence of just being able to manage, and which is why I really like working with you, very definitive and always know the answer. Where I think for me, I'm still trying to learn that, and I feel like that's a big element. So it takes like a lot of personal skills as well as technical know-how and just general, just like trust your gut instinct.
Yeah.
And yeah, I look at these jobs online. I'm like, why are they still much lower? Some like finance bro out of school making like 6 figures, their job, they're probably working like crazy, but I don't, it just, there's a huge disparity there.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel like these companies like, well, it's creative and cool, so you have to get paid less to do it. And I feel like journalism's kind of similar, where everyone has these like hopes and dreams to, be impactful or have some sort of like impact on the people around them, or on other people by telling their story, or just enlightening their community and friends with quite frankly hashtag content. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like, well, everyone wants to do it, so you're gonna have to not get paid to do it. But like, I look at my girlfriend who's like, I'm going to Pilates at 1:00 and then I'm going to a doctor's appointment and I'll do some grocery shopping, and I'm glued to my desk like 8 to 12 hours a day,
Yeah, which I'm sorry for making you do that. I'm largely responsible for you being at your desk. But no, I mean, I agree. And I can't remember if I told this story on this podcast yet. If I did, you're going to listen to it again. I always wanted to be a journalist for, the reasons that you're saying, trying to make an impact, because I knew from a very young age that there, are two groups of people in this world, folks who have privilege and access and luxury. I do consider being able to have your story heard a luxury, and then there were folks who don't have that privilege, whose stories don't get heard, or they try to and it gets ignored. And so I wanted to travel the world with the New York Times to do investigative reporting.
I wanted to do that with like Anthony Bourdain and food and tell stories through that.
Yeah.
But, similar dream.
And so, I mean, I still think that, with the the work that I do independently, I definitely try to still, with the film work and things like that, I definitely try to get scripts that, feature characters and narratives that maybe aren't in the spotlight as often. I think through the production agency work, I think the thing that I've been trying to do is at least bring folks onto set that don't get as much of an opportunity, right? I think with any project that I'm on, I'm always thinking about who I'm not necessarily I have a quota on how many white people can be on set.
I've noticed. Yeah.
Because I'm like, fuck it. Like, you'll probably be fine without me. Like,
oh yeah, I remember when they're like, we need a white guy, and then we got off the phone with the client, and Sean's like, no, we're not getting a white guy. We're finding someone else.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
For you, I know that you said your dad got you interested in sort of the film world and everything, but what were some of your challenges in getting into this industry?
I think a lot of big challenge, like when I look at like you, for example, I think it's a really interesting time, because like for me, I feel like the biggest Zoomer quality in me is I love watching like YouTube video essays. I feel cringe saying like video essays, but like I really feel like these days, like with music, like how personal laptop can produce like really high grade music these days, like anyone with a laptop. We're sort of getting there now with like visual content, and I think that's kind of amazing, but also it's like makes things a little more complicated, because like that documentary I was saying about like the Disney chime, right?
Yeah.
That was an hour and a half, and that was really highly produced. Like I was very impressed, but at the end of the day, you don't refer to it as a documentary. It's like, check out this YouTube video.
Yeah.
But by all by all means and like all definitions, that is a documentary, and it's a really well produced one to boot.
Yeah.
And it was also a very fascinating story, and I think the struggle with me is just like first of all, it's like believing yourself is a big thing, because it's like you're an artist in this world. You're not, art is art. But I find something here, it's like you're really like, you got to be like sure with yourself, like be comfortable with your own emotions, because you're pouring that out, especially if it's something that you're making that you're inspired to make. Like for me, all the stuff I always want to make or stuff that at the end of the day would be scared to release, because it's like, it's like when I show you the script, I'm like, you like it? When I cook food for my girlfriend, I'm like, the second she takes one bite, I'm like, it's good, right? Like I need that like instant validation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that the hurdle, I think, which is something that like at the end of the day you just have to go for it. Is just, like, man, I was a little scared to come here today, but I was like, you know what?
Aw.
I was inspired by you, and I was like, I'm just gonna come here and do it. And I have a big mouth, I talk a lot, so like I thought this might work. But I think it's like at the end of the day, I think a lot of my hurdles are just like kind of learning to love myself a bit more and be more sure of myself to just like go for it. Like I feel like I have all these like Google Docs on my personal email with like half-written scripts or like storyboards and things like that, or ideas, and I like and then I have that one day of like self-doubt, because we're human, we have a large scale of emotions, we're not supposed to be 100% all the time. And then I kind of like discourage myself, and that's something I'm obviously working through. Big proponent of therapy, it's been very helpful for that. And I think it's that's why I kind of like working for the agency, because when I'm finally tasked to write a script, it's like I have to do this or else I can't pay rent, right? So like I get to finally force myself to do it, and I really do enjoy doing it. It's just more of like then having to share it and be like scared of a bad review or like someone thinking it's bad or something. But then that's going back to like believing in your own self.
Yeah. I mean, I think with working in this industry as a whole, right, the film industry, the creative industry, whatever, like you have to form a thick skin, right? And obviously with I used to make videos on YouTube. I'm obviously now back again making videos on YouTube.
Let's go.
And right, and the world of like people making TikToks and reels and constantly like commenting underneath all of these videos, right? And it's like, which like the age of like YouTubers, where like all of these folks who really were the start of monetizing and making a career out of making videos online, and their mental health kind of was crazy, because like they had to deal with like all of these folks from around the world, people they don't know, people with no faces, telling them that they're ugly, telling them that they're stupid, telling them that like
just haters, right?
Just haters, right? And like as
People
much
are
as
jealous.
like exactly, I mean that's sort of what it comes down to. And like for sure, like when I started going into this, I definitely had some anxiety. I was like, fuck, like how am I going to react to that troll comment? I think with even like working in the agency and like where you were saying about like self-doubt and things, and I have been the youngest person in the room, in like pretty much in every room I think that I've been in professionally. And working in an agency environment and working with so many different clients who are very demanding, you know that you're gonna get bad feedback at some point, or like feedback that you're not expecting, and you're gonna have tough conversations, because not because you're doing a bad job, but just because the expectations are colliding or something like that.
They think it's magic. They're just like they don't have necessarily, they have a surface level knowledge, and then they're like, can you make this fix? I'm like, yeah, sure. We just have to refilm the whole thing. They think editing is like it's because it makes sense, right? You email them notes, and then we just change them, and they get the changes, and they don't think about everything in between. Yeah. And it is interesting to have to manage those expectations and be honest, but also deliver the goods.
Yeah. The thing that happens with that is that you start to learn how to not take that stuff personally, because you can't. Yeah. When you're trying to constantly prove yourself, that at some point you're just like, I know how to do my job, like. And I think that you are a very creative person, like truly. Like I've seen you in our brainstorms. Obviously you're doing something, you're doing this project right now that we can't really talk about on camera, but you have really, really great ideas. The way that your brain works, honestly, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, like you could really honestly like create something beautiful, and a lot of things that are beautiful.
Yeah, I hope so.
You're welcome.
One day. Yeah.
And that's why like I do like constantly, or at least I try to push you to like do the stuff that you want to do, because you've told me some of your ideas and they're incredible. And I know that all you need is to like actually start doing that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also kind of like a financial thing again. It's like I spoke to a friend who did like a spec commercial that ended up like getting some like, good impressions online. And he was like, yeah, I dropped like 5K on it of my own money. I'm like, oh. I was like, yeah. And like, obviously it's like, we
Yeah.
work in this, we know it costs money. But I was like, I thought maybe he called him a few favors or something. But I was like, damn, that's gonna.
Which
yeah.
is also another way to go for sure. Like I don't have 5K to drop on
Yeah.
things.
I don't think a lot of people do either.
I've definitely gone the do me a favor route or
Mhm.
the paying people some amount of money, but not like probably not what their usual rate would be. Obviously I think it's important to treat people fairly. Being in
Mhm.
the industry ourselves and being creatives ourselves, like we know what it's like to like work for nothing.
Yeah, and see people who are really just trying to get in through the door,
Yeah.
like they'll literally take a bad pay just to get through, like get their foot in the door and get the introductions. And it's tough. Yeah, it's an industry where you really have to eat shit for a long time. Like I'm on an advertising subreddit. It's a really small community, but I'm always like, when I was panicking the other night when I was trying to write this script, I was like, how to write script on that subreddit, just looking for any conversation for like, because I've never done animation, I've never done shit like that, and then all these like things come up, and it's just like really interesting to like hear what those people, because they range from like more traditional agencies to like niche, like just little studios,
Yeah.
and they're always like, yeah, you kind of eat shit for like 10 years, but then you make fuck you money. I'm like, okay, when is that fuck you money in particular? Because like, people throw that fuck you money around, and I talk to people who are a little higher than me. I'm always trying to network, always trying to like figure out the secret, which is something I'm always like so overthinking about. I was like, there must be a secret, right? It's like, no, you just do it. You just push, and you fight. You have to fight for yourself, because in a creative industry, I really feel like in general, you're your own advocate and you have support, but at the end of the day, it's really on you. That's
Absolutely.
kind of what brings in a lot of the anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like that's the self-confidence part. You have to like trust in yourself to do yourself good, which, it takes time. I think I'm getting older. As I'm getting older, I'm still young. I'm learning to love myself more and appreciate my ability. And, it's obviously tough, but it's definitely like, I think something that you just have to like trust the process. I hate how corny that sounds to a degree, but I really just like I think I have a friend, for example. He's a very talented creative guy. Does music. He like taught himself to edit. He's just like a very like, he was like the first kid that grew up on the internet. Like,
is this the person that I'm thinking of?
no, you haven't. He does no, not
okay.
him.
Okay.
But he's a same friend group.
Yeah.
But he's just like a genius by all means.
Yeah.
But his problem, in my opinion, is like he's building his social media, stuff like that. But he's like he's thinking like already like when I'm famous, right, or when I'm recognized for my work, which is what everyone wants at the end of the day. They want to be recognized for their work, not so much the famous part. I feel like being famous is kind of annoying, in my opinion. I wouldn't even want that. But I feel like because he thinks like that, he gets so frustrated and like depressed throughout the process, because he's like, why am I not famous yet? Why are people not validating my creativity? And it's like, that's why I say trust process. You just keep going, and then eventually you'll hit that banger. You get something that really tracks.
Yeah. No, I definitely had moments like that where I for sure obviously also know exactly where I want to be in terms of the big goal, the big ambition. And I've gotten frustrated about like, why the fuck am I not there yet? And then I have to remember like, hello, I am X years old.
Yeah, you have to sit back. New York is a place that you like, you have to like, you're always competing in creative circles with your peers, whether you like it or not, right? You're seeing friends who are like, because that's the thing, social media is like, you really have to flex your content on social media to like get that like credit, so people just think of you. But like, I try to avoid social media because that shit's bad for my mental health. And it's like that's where the problem's facing. It's like, do I flex this content but like have to be like shook because I'm not getting enough likes or not getting enough impressions that I like, or that I was hoping to get? Or do I completely avoid social media and just kind of hope that, I don't know. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't really know what the solution is there.
No, I mean it's a catch-22 because like it's like, you don't want to be on social media too much or at all because of the mental health and just being that plugged in all the time is
Mhm.
like, it's insane. I don't think that's natural. It's like overstimulation for your brain. But then on the other hand, in this day and age, it's a little bit impossible to like get ahead and get to where you want to be without being on social media and like
yeah, it's the
and,
kind
and
of brutal irony.
pushing and pushing. Yeah, it's, you know, that the people who created Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and every other social media platform definitely achieved their mission. They did a good job.
Yeah, and everyone like always looks at they want to be like a wonderkind. It's like there's so many you'll never be that, unfortunately. That's just a mythos, but you can get to where you want to be, you know, with just not saying you're ever going to be satisfied, because I feel like we live in a world where you're just never going to be satisfied, especially here. I feel like it's never good enough, which is, to a degree it's good because you always push yourself, but it's also like you have to find like a middle ground, I feel like. But at the end of the day, I think what I've been trying to reorient like cognitive behavioral shit with my brain. I'm like, this is exciting, this is fun, this is not something that's like consequential to your career or to like your future. Like it all will kind of maybe work out in one way or another. But like just have fun doing it. And like right now I'm having fun, you know. I'm like what do I do with my hands, because I'm being filmed at the same time, but you know, I kind of like, this is fun stuff. And like this is kind of like what it's refreshing to remind yourself at the end of the day, like you do this for fun, right? And like going back to the YouTube stuff, these people always at the end of their videos are like, you know, I love doing this. I love that I'm able to do this because y'all like my content and I'm able to pay rent with this content.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, I look at that and that's kind of like the goal, right? It's just like be happy what you're doing while being able to stay afloat, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I mean, that's sort of the ideal. I don't think that that's what actually ends up happening. I mean, I think I'm at a place where I love producing, I love directing, I love
music managing, talent management, podcast host. The list goes on. You're multi-talented. I mean, you got.
Thank you. You didn't have to stop.
I kind of ran out of ideas, but you know, there's always a new project you tell me about, and I'm always very impressed. And that's
which that is all stuff I enjoy. But I will say the fact that the fact that this is also the way that I make money and that I have to survive doing this does put a strain on and a sort of a damper to the fun part sometimes, because it's like, fuck, like I have to do this.
Yeah.
Like
it's like, oh, I can't pay rent. That's it. It's like it's a constant gun cocked to the back of your head.
Yeah, and on the other side of it, it's like if I try to do anything else to make money, I would absolutely hate my life a lot more. And so trying to find a balance between like keeping this something that brings joy while not also just completely exhausting you is something that I think I'm still trying to figure out. But
yeah, yesterday I coincidentally at 3 different events met 3 different like real estate type broker guys, and I'm listening to them, and obviously, you know, implied and also specifically told how much they make, and I was like, fuck. But then I hear what they're doing, and it's like so cynical and like depressing, and like unstimulating. Is that the word? Not stimulating? Instimulate? I don't know. It didn't sound like this person, like when he was talking about it, it didn't sound like he was like had a passion for it. It just was like, yeah, I did this.
Yeah, which I mean, I also think that it's fair. Like, I don't think everybody needs to have a job that they're super passionate about. For some people, it really is. It's just, you know.
And I'm not knocking on them. I'm more saying like it was refreshing to me in a way that like it calmed me down a little bit. Like, yeah, you're a little frustrated with like, you know, you could be making more money or you want to make more money, you want to be more recognized, but at the same time, it's like we're lucky, right? I feel like
no, for sure.
Yeah, I think we talked about this the other day. It's like people would love to be able to get their foot in the door, and these industries are really hard to get your foot in the door, and you really have to climb. Like, you know, you got to climb, but like you got to scratch your way through up that barrel. You know, I don't know that Christopher Walken saying about the rats who like in a thing of milk that turns into butter because they're ambitious.
I lost you. And on that, if somebody knows what the fuck he's talking about, let us know.
It's from that movie where Leonardo DiCaprio is always running away.
Shutter Island?
No. Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, Catch Me If You
Yeah.
Can. Oh, I love that movie.
I'm not gonna spare you guys my walk impersonation because I didn't get to prep for it. But like, I always love that line because it talks, it's always like he's talking to his son about it, and he's like, you really gotta like fight, right? Fight as hard as these 2 rats stuck in a barrel full of milk to turn it into cream or something so they can crawl out. Something like that.
What a wonderful white person inspiration moment. On that note, I'm gonna have us end this episode here.
Okay. Well, this was fun. Thank you for, I feel happy I did this, and I feel like more confident going into it. You always got to do it once. So you got to break that ice, and that's like kind of me. I do it once, and I'm good. Like trying to negotiate salary or trying to, getting on stage the first time.
You will regret the things that you don't try.
Yeah. Always just go for it.
Rate, comment, subscribe, leave a review. Peace!